Today's 4 Deep Sports Talk broadcast is sponsored by Frank Bedeck Law Office. Visit them at bedecklaw.com. By Dr. Scott J. Mandel. Visit them at superiorortho.com. And by Source Pumping Incorporated. Simply the best at what they do. Visit them at sourcepumping.com. Check out the BSU Bears basketball camp. Available to all boys and girls ages 7 to 15. Only $250 for the week, and it starts on July 30th and goes until August 2nd. Don't miss out on one-of-a-kind basketball camp. For more information, go to bsubears.com or email E4Adams.
And then I'll bring it down. Good morning, everybody. You're listening to 4 Deep Sports Talk here on the news station, 1320 AM WARA, and I believe we do have Dave Lurie on the line. Dave, you with us?
I am.
Hey, we did a good job here. Dave, first of all, thank you for taking your Saturday. And, of course, we're talking to Dave Lurie. He is the head softball coach over at Taunton High School as we do our roundup with South Sectional play here in Southeastern Mass. Dave, I know I said this before, but congratulations on a great run.
Thank you, Garmick. Appreciate that. It was a great run.
It really was. In studio with me, and they'll introduce themselves as we go around our round table. I have Lucy Cabral, which I believe you met before. 2 fine gentlemen from Bridgewater State University doing an internship with us, Tyler Fonts and Brian Barad, and the sports master himself, Justin Ferreira. And first off, let's talk about. I mean, you know how it's going to go, Dave. We're going to jump around. We can grab you for the hour, correct? Is that still all right with the wife?
Sure. However much time you need.
Oh, awesome! No, we want you to educate our listeners on that great run you win. I mean, it's not easy to win to win any type of, especially Division I, girls softball state championship. Can you tell us about your thoughts going into the season, the beginning of the season?
Well, I was very optimistic going in, although I think I'm optimistic every year. But I felt that this year we really had the talent, certainly, to make a strong run in Division I. There were a couple of question marks, but the main thing I thought was whether or not we could come together as a team and play as a team, develop that team chemistry. And we did, and I think that was a big factor in our success this year.
What was your biggest worry going into this season, if any?
Well, I wouldn't call them worries, but we had question marks. Of course, we had lost our starting pitcher from last year. Courtney Fisher graduated. So we had 3 pretty much untested pitchers coming in. So we certainly had the numbers, we had the depth, but not a lot of experience. We had a freshman, a sophomore, and a junior as potential pitchers. So that was certainly a question mark. We needed a first baseman, and we didn't really have an established first baseman to take over that position, and we were going to need an outfielder. So those were the 3 positions that we knew we had to fill.
I don't know if you guys have any questions. Just please jump in anytime. You guys, I know you know that, Brian, and Tyler knows that.
Hey, Dave, this is Tyler Fonts. So what kind of adversity throughout the season did your team face, throughout the games, maybe in the playoff play or even in the championship game? Any notable moments that your team faced that they overcame?
Well, I think probably the biggest adversity we had during the year was when we lost to King Philip. I think it was our 7th game of the year. We were winning 2-0 going into the bottom of the 7th, and Kelsey had a no-hitter actually going into the bottom of the 7th. And KP got a hit and a walk, and we got a couple of outs, and the next batter hit a 3-run walk-off home run to beat us 3-2. So that was probably the most devastating loss that I've ever been involved in, other than getting knocked out of the tournament in prior years. But that was a tough one. But in the long run, I think it ended up being something that helped us as a team, because we came away from that, and once we got over the shock of it and talked about it the next day, we realized that we had outplayed them that day. And King Phillips is one heck of a program. They're real good every year. We knew we had outplayed them. We got outscored, but we knew we had outplayed them, and that gave us some confidence that we could pretty much play with anybody going forward. So I think in the long run, that really helped us.
Hey, Coach, it's Brian Berard here. Now, you said going into the season you had some position battles going on, and you said you're always confident and optimistic going into the season. But for you coming into this year, how do you get the most out of your players? Because you said that with the position battles, you still kind of up in the air. But how do you get the most out of your players, knowing that there's some battles going on, and still try to keep them focused?
Well, I think you try and keep it as competitive as possible, and everybody knows that this program, you have to not only win your position, but you have to keep it. You have to play well enough to keep your position, because there's talent throughout the program, and we had a very talented bench this year, a young bench, but very talented. So I think everybody knew that if you don't perform, there's somebody sitting on that bench just anxious to jump into the starting lineup and take that spot. So I think the competitiveness that we have had in the program, especially this year, goes a long way towards that.
I don't know if this is a fair question to ask you, and you talked about the depth of your bench. Is it fair to say this is probably one of the most talented teams you've had as far as depth-wise?
I think so. We've had other years where I thought we've had a good, strong bench as well. But I think this year was definitely very, very deep. And I mean, just think about, we beat King Philip in the tournament in the South Sectional Finals, and the girl who got the base hit to win the game, drive in 2 runs, Riley Murphy, basically that was the second game she started all year for us. And kind of on a hunch, I put her in the lineup that day, and lo and behold, she comes up with the biggest hit of the year at that point. I think that goes a long way towards making a strong team.
Now, Coach, you mentioned the King Philip game earlier in the season. When you lose a game like that, do you try to keep it in the player's mind as motivation, or is it one of those things where it's that game happened yesterday and let's move on and not remember it?
Well, I think it's a combination of both. I think you don't want to forget that game because you learn lessons from it. And I think one of the lessons that I kept talking about was, we had 3 or 4 opportunities in that game to break it open, and we didn't. So instead of going into the 7th inning with a 2-0 lead, we could have gone in with a 5-0 lead easily. But we didn't. We didn't get the big hit, or we didn't put down a bunt when we should have. And that kind of helps reinforce some of the approaches that we talk about all year. The significance, for example, of a sacrifice bunt. If you can't move a runner, that run may come back to bite you in the end. And in that particular game, it did. We had a couple of opportunities where we didn't get down bunts, and it cost us. So those are the kind of things I think that you don't want to forget about, and you do talk about periodically throughout the year to kind of keep people focused on what do we need to do to be a championship caliber team.
Hey Dave, it's Tyler again. So you mentioned building team chemistry, and I know with high school sports, you're losing players, you're gaining new players. That chemistry can be sometimes difficult to build. Now, with this team that you just had, would you say that the team chemistry they kind of developed on their own, or did you set up like team events, like maybe like movies, going to get ice cream or something with the team to kind of get to know each other, or did they just kind of mold together on their own?
Well, I think I've got to give a lot of credit to the leaders on the team, our captains, our seniors, because they got it. They were around, especially like Kai Enos. This was her 5th year on the varsity. And she's been through some years where maybe that team chemistry wasn't there. So she understood it. Jamie Brown's been a starter for 3 years with us. Mackenzie Handrahan the last couple of years. So they got it. They understood Leanna Duarte, the other captain. And they knew what had to be done. And they knew that you couldn't have clicks. You got 3 or 4 clicks on a team, it's not going to work. So they did that on their own. We talked about it, and I did little things like the kids tend to get in the habit. They like to warm up with the same person every day, and they try and convince me that's their superstition or whatever. But in practice, I said, no, okay, so today you're going to switch partners to warm up with, just so we're not with the same people every day. And I think they bought into that. That helped. So it's but it's got to go back to the leaders on the team, the captains and the seniors. They're the ones who really understood that, and I think really generated. Plus the fact we were lucky. We really had a bunch of really great kids on this club.
Dave, when was I believe it was Aaron Wade was your ace last time you guys won the state title, correct?
Yes.
Then what year was that? Just to refresh. Well, me, of course. What's that?
'07.
'07. How much has the player changed from '07 to now as far as the whole aspect of the game? What changes have you seen from a player's, as far as the player's persona and the way they approach the game from 2017 to this team?
Well, I think in some respects it's improved. I think players today, they play a lot of ball. They play a lot of ball, not just in the summer, but fall ball, and even throughout the winter. A lot of them get a lot of good coaching from their outside travel teams. So I think talent-wise, the kids individually are better. The negative aspect to it that I see, there's a lot of this whole showcase mentality out there now, and that's what a lot of the travel teams focus on, showcasing for college coaches. So it's like kids are out there playing for themselves, to show off their talents for a coach, and not so much to build a team, to win something. And that's where high school is so different, in my opinion, than the travel ball, the mentality of the travel ball now, anyway.
Now,
I think that definitely is a big change.
Now, Coach, how do you really get the players to focus on that team mentality? Because we see now in the past several years that college tuition's gone through the roof, and a lot of kids are trying to get scholarships to help pay for college. But how do you really keep them focused on that team mentality and not me over the other?
Yeah, that's not an easy task, believe me.
You got to write a book on that, right, Coach?
If I could write, that may be a good topic, that's for sure. But that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I mean, I myself and my other coaches, Paul Domenico and Chris Altman, we've been around it a long time, and when we talk about the importance of high school sports, and this is really the best time of your life in terms of, for 99% of the kids who play sports, high school is going to be the top level they're ever going to play. And, you're playing with your friends, you're playing in front of your family, you're playing for your school, for your city, the whole bit. And we just constantly emphasize that. And, one thing I try to do is tie in the current team with the history of the program. We've got a pretty good history here. This was our fifth state championship. So I try and tie that all in so that they know this is not just another tournament that they're playing in when they're playing in the state tournament. This is the tournament. This is the World Series of high school softball.
All right, Dave, we're going to take our first break. You are listening to 4 Deep Sports Talk here on the news station. Dave, we can still hold on to you, correct?
Absolutely.
All right. We'll be back with more right after this.
Thanks.
Check out the BSU Bears basketball camp. Available to all boys and girls ages 7 to 15. Only $250 for the week, and it starts on July 30th and goes until August 2nd. Don't miss out on one-of-a-kind basketball camp. For more information, go to bsubears.com or email e4adams@bridgew.edu.
Yep.
Hey, welcome back. You are listening to 4 Deep Sports Talk. We are on the line with Dave Lurie, right, manager and coach of the Taunton High School Division I girls softball state champs. Are you still there, Dave?
I'm still here.
Oh, that's awesome. Nothing's burning and Dave's on the line.
What a great day it is after all.
It's a beautiful thing.
All is right with the world.
Absolutely. All right, Dave, we're gonna run down. We have a pretty good listening base because we also affiliated. And I think I told you before with armedforcesradio.org, and here on Facebook Live, and here at 1320. For those people who lived on the proverbial rock, and I hope I didn't say that freshly, was the rundown. I want to make sure I get the record right. You guys finished overall 32-2. Does that sound correct?
26-2.
20. God darn. You know what it is? I think Max Prep put in to score twice, but we'll correct that as we go. They have you in a league record at 6-1.
In the league, in the Hockomock League itself?
Yes.
Yeah, no, we were. Let me think. Yeah, we were 12-2.
All right, so I'm going to go through this. If I repeat it twice, you know they did it wrong. So, all right, so for again, we're referring to the Division I Massachusetts State champion, the Lady Tigers of Taunton High School. They started off in Milford, if I get this right, Dave, with a loss 8-7. We'll touch on that for a minute. Beat Mansfield 13-4. Blank New Bedford at New Bedford 15-0. I have a Franklin win 14-1. A Sharon win 17-0. At Oliver Ames 9-3. Hosted Attleboro, blanked them 12-0. At King Philip with a loss 13-2. Excuse me, 3-2. Sorry. Foxborough win at Foxborough. I know, Dave. I'm trying to do this fast. 16-1. I have at Stoughton with a win 8-0. At Mansfield 7-1. Hosted Franklin 6-1 at New Bedford 13-0. King Philip with a close win 4-3. And they've repeated this thing, so now I'll just move on. I just saw the score twice. Oliver Ames with a win 9-3. At Moses Brown 2-0. It must have been a good game. Then at Franklin 6-1. At Attleboro 21-5. At Oliver Ames 14-5. Dighton Rehoboth 10-4. The city championship was 10-0 over Coyle and Cassidy. At New Bedford 13-0. At Dighton Rehoboth 6-3, and I believe we go into sectional play and then the state tournament in 8 innings over North Attleboro 2-0. Quincy 3-0. Dartmouth 9-2. Bishop Fien 9-1. King Philip 4-2. Newton North 6-1. Wachusett for the state title 13-2. So that's pretty close, right, Dave?
Yeah, that sounds pretty close to me. Yep.
Yeah, right. They got a couple there, but for those people, so now they officially know how you guys ran the table and dominated in 2018. So my question before we go around the round table, at the bottom half of the hour, the sports master has a couple things. We're going to congratulate some of the youth programs out there as well. Are you into, or are you still involved with Taunton Youth Girls Softball, trying to let people know you're there and what you bring to the table, so you can build a relationship with some of these young people that are playing youth softball?
I personally am not involved with the league any longer. I do have a relationship with the officers of the league, and we try and maintain a good relationship with them. Yes, and because we encourage them to come to our games and help out any way we can.
Yeah, the reason why I said that because I know Brian can vouch for this. He sees that a lot because he does a lot with Bridgewater Access TV, and I probably even telephone. Well, probably all of us have heard it. You see all these AAU teams, and the head coaches coach these teams, and not to pick on Coyle Cassidy, they're big with their hockey program, trying to bring big hockey players into their program. Of course, Bridgewater Random can't stand that because they're mostly Bridgewater Random kids, but that's another joke for another time. But do you see that a lot, though, in the summertime? Coaches doing that for their programs?
You don't see a lot of high school softball coaches coaching in the summer. You are limited. You can't coach a team that has 50% or more players from your own program. So you have to be very careful with that. That's an MIAA rule.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. It has to be less than 50%. So if you got a 14-player roster, you can only have 6 people from your high school program, not just your varsity team, your high school program. So that kind of makes it difficult to coach during the summer. And I can see the purpose of that rule. I think it's a good rule, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree. What do you guys? I think that's a pretty good. I think that's. Did you knew that? Remember that rule, Brian?
Yeah, I remember that rule. I know there's been some coaches that have gotten into some hot water by coaching their team outside, in clubs or even like indoor softball over the winter or not. But I mean, there's pros and cons to that rule. I mean, I understand why they do that, but I agree. I don't think that the coach should be disallowed from trying to coach some of their players over the summer. But I do like it in the fact that I think it's great for players to get different opinions and different coaching styles throughout their career.
Yeah.
I mean, we see so many professional athletes say, have your kids play other sports other than this sport or this sport. You know, you use different, different thoughts and different muscles, different everything.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's pros and cons to that, but I mean, overall, I do agree with it. But I still think that coaches should be allowed to still have some contact with players in off season.
How do they police that, Dave? That's
We do some of that. We run a clinic
Okay.
in the winter from January until right up until our season, actually. We do it at Taunton High School, and a lot of our players do come to that clinic, but it's open to everyone. And that's, we get a lot of kids from the Taunton Girls Softball League, from the Dynamites organization, and from other high schools from around. We focus mainly on hitting and pitching in this clinic. But it is a way of staying involved and giving your kids another opportunity to get some good instruction.
No, that's a good clinic, but I want to know how, when Brian just elaborated on that policy with the MIAA, I want to know how you police that. There's not enough guys in the MIAA to go to every AAU program in your area to try to police to make sure it's legit. You know what I mean? Does that sound crazy the way I'm saying that?
And I don't think MIA is going to go out and go checking every
Right.
employee throughout the summer. But believe me, there's enough people around. If they were to go out and see a coach of the team of his, with mainly girls from his high school softball team, something tells me that would get back to MIAA.
Right.
And I know there have been some suspensions of coaches who have done that in the past. Although I haven't heard anything recently. A number of years ago, there were coaches that were suspended for a year for breaking that rule.
All it takes is one mad parent to see that plethora of hypothetical Greater New Bedford vote kids on that one AAU team, and then the door hits the fan, and you know where they're flushing that. It's crazy.
I just had to bring up that team, huh?
I was being hypothetical.
when that happens, do they get as angry as the Hulk?
I don't know. They might get as angry as the Hulk. That's a lot of people. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know if I was going to throw a question at him. I don't know if you had something, T. No. All right, Bri.
I'll think of something.
All right. So,
I'm
Mike,
brewing something in my head.
let's do this before we forget. And I always mess this up near the end of the program. I'd like to, if you could give a shout out to your coaches first, and then I want to talk about that 14 roster lineup. Correct? Did I say that right, or is it how many on the roster?
On our team right
Yes.
now? 15 for the tournament.
So I want to talk about each position as far as how we're looking, because you are losing 3 seniors, and I'd like to elaborate that. But let's talk about that coaching staff. Let's give them the well-deserved congrats.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start with my freshman coach, Mike Fox, and most people know Mike. He's been pretty active in the city of Taunton for a long, long time, worked for the YMCA for many years, coaches a number of sports over at the high school, and known as the announcer for basketball games and whatever. But yeah, Mike does the freshman team, does a real nice job. He keeps a big roster because he has both 8th graders and 9th graders, and is real good at finding playing time for everyone. My JV coach, former player for me back in 02 and 03, Michelle Raposo. She was our third baseman. She has 2 state championship rings. This is her first year coaching in the program, and she did a real nice job as well. And then with me on the varsity, Riss Altman, formerly Marissa Domenico. She was our catcher on the 07 state championship team, so she's been there too. She knows what it takes to win a state championship. And then her dad, Paul Domenico, has been with me probably for the last 10 years anyway, and is a big help in the program.
So
That's the coaching staff.
That's the staff. Yeah, they can't say we didn't talk about them, Coach.
That's
They
right.
can't say we didn't give them some well-deserved congrats.
Yep, exactly.
Hey, Dave.
And they deserve it.
Absolutely.
Hey Dave, this is Tyler again. I just wanted to. I remember you. Don asked about your one of your most valuable players. Back when you won the championship in '07. Do you have any players from this year that you wanna maybe mention that had a big part in helping you win the championship this year?
Yeah, I think to win a state championship, you've got to have a lot of good players, and you've got to have a lot of people making contributions, and that's. I think that was really a benchmark of this team this year. We got a lot of people who stepped up. Certainly, you'd have to start when you talk about contributions. Kai Arenas, our senior catcher, she just had a tremendous year. She hit 470, hit 6 home runs, drove in. She had 48 RBIs in 28 games, which is pretty incredible when you think about it. She's probably one of the best athletes that have ever played the game of softball at Taunton High, at least since I've been around it. Catcher, calming influence behind the plate for our young pitchers, and just came up with big hit after big hit this year. So certainly we'd have to start with her. Another senior captain, Leanna Duart, center fielder, very different type of player. I call him Button Jeff because Kai is real tall and Leanna's real short. But Leanna just played a great defensive center field for us, hit mid-4s. I think she led the team with 14 sacrifice bunts, so she understood how important the bunt is to the softball game. And just, again, tremendous leader as well. And our other senior was Mackenzie Handrahan, our left fielder, who led the team in hitting. She had 490-something. And developed into, and Dom, you may remember her from last year, as a left fielder last year, she wasn't going to win any gold gloves. But this year, she turned into a real good outfielder. She worked on getting a jump on the ball, reading the ball off the bat, angles to the ball, and although she didn't have a gun for an arm, she got real accurate, was able to keep her throws down. So it really turned into an asset in the outfield. Whereas last year, I would substitute for her defensively late in the game. So she worked real hard at that part of her game.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head there when you described her. 'Cause she definitely became a more mature outfielder, and she definitely got a better read on the ball. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like night and day. Dave, we're going to take our second break, so we'll come back. Can we still hold on to you?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, you are listening to 4 Deep Sports Talk here on the news station, 1320 AM WARA, and online on 4 Deeps on Facebook Live as well. Just go to our website, all one word, 4deepsportstalk.com. We are highlighting the 2018 Division I Massachusetts State Champions in girls softball with head coach Dave Lurie from Taunton High School. We will be back with more right after this.
Check out the BSU Bears basketball camp, available to all boys and girls ages 7 to 15. Only $250 for the week, and it starts on July 30th and goes until August 2nd. Don't miss out on one-of-a-kind basketball camp. For more information, go to bsubears.com or email e4adams@bridgew.edu.
Hey, welcome back. You are listening to 4 Deep Sports Talk here on the news station, 1320 AM WARA, and online, all one word, 4deepsportstalk.com. We are highlighting the 2018 Division I Massachusetts State Champions. We're happy to have, from, of course, Taunton High School girls softball, we're happily to have, I'll say happily one more time, Dave Lurie from Taunton Girls High School Softball. Dave, you with us?
I'm still here.
All right, so we're going to do our sports. I'm going to hand it over to the sports master. He's going to give us our sports flash, and then we'll come right back to you.
Great.
All right, with that being said, we cue the music. No, hit the other one. Yep. And then it's on, right? Let's make sure we get the music queued up. Da-da-da. It's coming. I know it's coming. I'll turn up your volume a little bit more. All right, now hit it. Ta-da. Any minute.
Come on, come on.
Just have faith.
Have faith.
It's coming.
It's coming. I know the music's coming.
Hit that one. Come on.
There you go. And with that being said, here is the Sports Master.
So, 4 Deep Sports Talk Show update with new sports. This is the Sportmaster Christian Carroll. Dayton Mariners beat Freetown Lakeville Cubs 5-4. They win 2018 American Republican Championships. East Bridgewater Rockies wins the East Bridgewater title. Also, the Berkeley Reds win the 2018 Crown Berkeley. Bridgewater Firefighters win the Bridgewater Little League Championship. Bridgewater 12-year-old Little League All-Stars wins District 7 championship. Mansfield's Little All-Stars won Little League District 6. In Calvert Hills, State County wins Eastern Massachusetts 11-inch Mobile state title. Maplewood Park wins the Eastern Massachusetts in 9th Mobile state title. Attleboro Pirates win the Attleboro Carroll Ripken Championship. Also in high school, girls softball one-time congrats to Taunton, Abington, and Greater New Bedford. And boys baseball congrats to North Attleboro and Artificial Wounds for their state title championship wins. And of course, Denham baseball winning the South Section. I'm Joseph Murray, and that's your sports talk.
Awesome job. So we can just we'll pause it with we'll pause it there. Yep, pause it there. There we go. And we still have Dave Lurie on the line, correct?
Yes.
All right, Dave. I know we talked about a little bit about Handrahan and Enos. Let's talk about the future of this team, and let's go around the diamond. Let's start from first base. Let's talk about. I mean, you have a lot of depth, like you mentioned early in the show. There's a lot of depth in this team. Let's face it. The only one standing in your way, besides a very, the Hockomock is probably one of the hardest conferences to play in, and you know that it's basically yourselves. Would that be fair to say?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good competition out there, and I know people have said to me a number of times, "Oh, you're only losing 3. You guys should be real good next year. You got good young talent." Yeah, true, but we're losing 3 outstanding players. When you look at the 3 seniors who are graduating, there's over 80 runs batted in from those 3 players. That's
Wow.
not easy to replace.
Yeah, that's true. Good point by you. I stand corrected. I'm changing my comment now. No, you're right, because you see Bridgewater Raynham. They always have a good system. You got like you mentioned, King Philip. There's a lot of good other high school programs on there. And I know it's being a little bit fresh and being a little one-sided, but you know better than anybody, and Brian and all of us in the table that read the paper and see the stats. You can tell these teams it's just their time to go, and when they go, no one's stopping them.
Right.
And
Like we said way back early in the first part of the show, it's whether or not a team comes together as a team, whether that team chemistry clicks and the players all can play together and play for each other, not for themselves, and that's what makes a difference, because there's a lot of talent out there and a lot of good programs. So, fortunately for us this year, we were able to pull all of that together.
Now,
Yeah,
Coach,
absolutely.
Coach, in your time at Taunton, outside of your roster, who's probably some of the tougher players that you've played in your tenure at Taunton?
Who we played against?
Yeah, well, some of the players, if you can remember. Not to put you on the spot or anything.
Yeah, I mean, go back to our neighbor there, Bridgewater Raynham. They've had some great programs, great teams over the years, and we had tremendous battles against them. Kids like the Dawson kid who pitched for them not too many years ago, and the names are going to elude me at the moment, but they were always our chief competition, especially when we were playing back in the old Colony League. And then from there, now going over to the Hockomock, KP certainly is one of our primary competitors. Franklin's always good. Milford, I mean, they were state champs last year. They're always good. North Attleboro, so there's a lot of really good competitive teams with some great players.
Now, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but Taunton High School hosts the South Sectional semis and finals, correct?
Yes.
How big does that play into being able to play on your own home field in big games like that?
Well, I think, other people make a bigger deal out of it than it really is. I mean, it's obviously it's nice playing on your own field, no doubt about it. But we earned the home team by being the number 2 seed in the tournament, so we were home team throughout the 4 games for the South Sectionals at Taunton High. And then after that, we had to move on up to Lowell and then, of course, to Worcester. So we had to win the 2 biggest games of the tournament, not on our own field. So, I guess there can be an advantage to it, but I don't think it's what makes the difference. don't forget we went 11 years in between state championships, so and we hosted a tournament all that time. So I don't think it is that big a factor.
Oh, that's because the field looks like a college field. It's absolutely beautiful. I've had the pleasure of witnessing that for the last 10-plus years. I know Brian and I did some games covering Bridgewater Raynham.
Yeah, amazing facility.
It's unbelievable. It's like a college. The only thing, all you're missing is now a college behind, where the woods are. You know, it would look like you're on a big college campus.
Yeah.
You know, that you guys do a great job keeping that field up. And it's a no-brainer for the state to say, what's a decent field in Southeast Mass? I don't know, maybe Taunton High. You know what I mean? It's just there. And another field that comes to mind that's pretty good is Bridgewater Raynham. I mean, some of these other fields I think they need to work on, like King Philip, Franklin. I think they need to work on some of those fields, just to name a couple. Of course, smaller schools, BP, if they had what you guys had, I mean, they ain't going to make the kid any better player, but it make it better and, a better place overall to play the sport,
Right, a better environment. You're right. Yep.
So
one of the things that attracts the MIAA to our field is you have to have an enclosed field. They have to be able to control the gate, because as you know, they charge for entry into the tournament. So that's one of the advantages. Besides having a real good field, one of the best fields around, we're all enclosed, so they can control the gate.
So I have one question before I pass it around. I hope I can get this in before our last break. Let's go around. And again, I'm sorry, I'm jumping around like I always do when I ask a question. I ask one question, another one pops in. Let's talk about that 15-man team line from position to position. Let's go from first base. We'll do it the infield and the outfield. And who do you think's going to fill that gap, or who's fighting for a job out there, just to get a better understanding what to look for in 2019?
Okay, if we start with first base this year, sophomore Paige Sylvia ended up winning that position, and she never played first base before. Had to go out and buy herself a first baseman's mitt. She's been a catcher, and everybody thinks, oh, what's so tough about first base? You just stand there and catch the ball, keep your foot on the bag. There's a lot more to it than that, and she had to go through some growing pains like anyone does, but she did an outstanding job, especially the second half of the year and into the tournament. So she'll be back again next year, and whether or not she moves behind the plate or stays at first, that remains to be seen. Our second baseman, she ended up winning that position last year as an eighth grader, Mackenzie McAloon. About halfway through the year, she took over that position, and was both an outstanding hitter, a great second baseman. Unfortunately, she hurt her knee in the Dayton-Rehoboth game, the last game of the year, and missed the entire tournament, which was unfortunate for her. But fortunately for us, we had Alexa White, who was a junior, who was our starting right fielder, was able to move into second and do an outstanding job there for us. In fact, she was probably the star of the state championship game. I think she had 5 assists and 6 put-outs, something like that, as well as hitting a huge grand slam in the 5th inning that basically iced the game for us. Over at shortstop, another really good young player. She was our starting shortstop as an 8th grader last year, Anna Aldrich. Just continues to develop. She's an outstanding defensive player and is becoming a power hitter. She ended up hitting 4 home runs this year, and for a 14, 15-year-old kid to be able to do that at our field, that's pretty good power. Our third baseman, she's been a 4-year starter at third. She'll be back next year as a senior for her 5th year. Jamie Brown, one of the best high school hitters that I've seen in 25-plus years, and a tremendous third baseman as well. She was our junior captain this year, and she'll provide that leadership for us next year. As we look at the outfield, I mentioned Handrahan, the left fielder. Because she's graduated, she's going to go on and play at Bridgewater State. Deanna Duart in center. She's going to Curry College and plans to play softball. So the only returning outfielder we have is Alexa White, who played right field this year for us. She'll be a senior next year. Let's see. Behind the plate, that's a big hole to fill. We're losing Kaya Enos, and we have probably 3 or 4 viable candidates for that position. So we'll see how that all works out going forward. And on the mound, very fortunate to have three quality pitches. In fact, all three of these could be an ace or be a number one. Our freshman pitcher, Kelsey White, ended up kind of assuming that number one role, or earned that number one role, and ended up pitching all 6 games in the tournament. And she ended up with a 16-2 overall record with an ERA down in the low ones. And then backing her up, sophomore Jalen Kudo. She was 7-0 on the year. She also had an ERA in the low ones. And then Kelsey's older sister, Alexa White, she didn't get too much opportunity to pitch this year, but she was 3-0 with an ERA under 1. So we've got all 3 of those pitches back next year, so we got some pretty good depth there.
All right, Dave, we're going to take our last break before we sign off. We can hold on for another 5 minutes.
Will do.
All right, you are listening to 4 Deep Sports Talk here on the news station, 1320 AM, WARA, and online, all one word, 4deepsportstalk.com. We are highlighting the 2018 Division I Massachusetts State Champions in girls softball with Dave Lurie, the head coach over at Taunton High School. We'll be back with more right after this.
Check out the BSU Bears basketball camp. Available to all boys and girls ages 7 to 15. Only $250 for the week, and it starts on July 30th and goes until August 2nd. Don't miss out on one-of-a-kind basketball camp. For more information, go to bsubears.com or email e4adams@bridgew.edu.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. You are listening to 4 Deep Sports Talk, 1320 a.m. here at WARA in Attleboro. We are chatting with Dave Lurie, manager and coach of the Taunton High School Division I Girls Softball State Champs. You still there, Dave?
I certainly am.
Awesome. This is Lucy Cabral. I am with Dominic Damiano, as well as our sports master, Justin, and interns, Tyler and Brian. We are recording and streaming live. Right?
Yep, 375 people are watching it on Facebook right now.
Amazing.
How cool is that?
That's pretty cool. Dave, those are all your friends, and we'd be watching too, but we're in the studio.
It's our adoring public.
So, Dave, congratulations. And, I had a question. I wanted to know more about the girls and how, where they're going, what they're doing, how many girls you've lost or are graduating or moving up. And when did you know this team was going to be special?
Well, I'll start with the first part of your question. We have 3 seniors who are moving on. All 3 of them are going to play college ball this year. Kaya Enos is playing D1 for the University of Maine. Leanna Duat is going to Curry College. I believe they're a D2 school, and she's going to be playing there. And then Mackenzie Handrahan is going to Bridgewater State and plans to play softball for that program as well. So those are our 3 graduating seniors. And I'm sorry, what was your second part of the question?
I wanted to know more about the team. Like, how did you know, or when did you know, this team was going to take the title, and how special they were to come together as a team? When did all that happen? When did you think all that happened?
I think that going into the season, I felt pretty confident that we had the talent. We had enough talent to win a state championship. What I wasn't sure of is whether or not we could come together as a team. And there were 2 games during the year, I think, that kind of indicated to me, or gave me a pretty good feel that, okay, we got the potential here, we can do this. And one was the KP game that I mentioned earlier that we ended up losing on a 3-run walk-off home run in the 7th inning. But the other game was the Moses Brown game. We played them over in Rhode Island. They're an outstanding team, one of the best teams in Rhode Island. pitchers who are both going to Division One schools. Big, and I can't remember which schools they're going to, but they're big D1 schools as pitchers. And we ended up beating them with a freshman pitcher, 2-0. And I think at that point, everybody really began to think that, okay, we can beat anybody we play if we play our game. So I think that's where it really started to sink in.
Dave, I know I don't mean to cut you short, but you have a quick question. Only because we're coming down in time. We're losing time. Tyler, what's your question?
So I remember you mentioned earlier how, like, when they some of the players go into AAU programs, they get coached a little differently to more showcase their style of play for college play. Now, when you have that level of talent that you have, you have 3 graduating seniors that are going to play college softball, how do you manage their, they have the talent to go play in college, but also keeping the team mentality and staying focused on the task of winning a championship? How do you manage those mentalities to stay the course?
Well, I think when the kids come to us, they have the skills. They know how to swing the bat. They know how to catch a ball. They know how to pitch. So we don't focus as much on the individual skills. It's more the team game and how the game has to be played. The little things that go into the game. I mentioned bunting earlier. That's a huge part of softball. If you're a team that can't put down bunts, you're not going to win a state championship. And we're known for bunting a lot. We're known for suicide squeezes. We suicide squeeze way more than anybody else I've ever seen. And you have to work on that type of thing, and you have to get that mentality across that, it's called a sacrifice because you're sacrificing your at-bat for the good of the team, to either move a runner or, in a case of a suicide squeeze, score a run. So those are the kind of things we tend to focus on more. Base running, being able to read the play, read the outfielder, read how they're fielding the ball. Can you take an extra base because maybe they're playing the ball a little bit lackadaisical or they're playing it off to the side, those kinds of things.
Hey, Dave, I don't mean to cut you off, but we're getting ready to get off there, and I wanted to thank you very much for taking your day off to come talk to us about Taunton girls softball.
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
I will see you around the ballpark, my friend.
Excellent. Thank you, Doug.
Thanks, Dave. Have a great weekend.
Congrats.
Thanks, guys.
All right, that is Dave Lurie, you almost said head football coach, the head coach over at Taunton girls softball, and we have to sign off. And I want to thank the Bridgewater guys from coming in, Brian Barad, Tyler Fonts, for Lucy Cabral, and the sports master, Justin Ferrer. I'm Dominic Damiano. We hope you enjoyed this hour of 4 Deep Sports Talk as we highlighted the 2018 Taunton girls softball Massachusetts State champions. We will catch you next time. Everyone have a fantastic weekend.
You're listening